The time has come for the lioness to tell her own story.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Ras Tafari, live it. Hey, hey, the lion's voice. Ras Tafari.
And after going to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church over a period of time and growing up into the faith, I basically took on the late Archbishop Abuna Yesehaq as my father, not having my biological father. He was a father for me, like a biological father.
Okay.
Never really missed my biological father. You know what I mean?
The year is 1892, and the land of Ethiopia has been experiencing 4 years of terrible famine and drought. They call it the Kikuken, or the evil days. At least 1/3 of the human population and 90% of the cattle have died. The hyenas have feasted on so many carcasses that they have become overweight and barely able to move. Just when the people could take no more of the evil days, a woman named Wasiro Yeshimabet is giving birth in a place called Ergersa Gora. This is her 9th attempt to bring forth new life. Her previous 8 attempts only resulted in death. Will this child live? Thankfully, a healthy baby boy is born. His first cries are drowned by thunder and lightning flashes across the night sky. The heavens open up and torrential rain starts to fall. Ethiopia's drought is over, and the baby boy is given the name Tafari, meaning one to be feared or respected. Lich Tafari's father, Ras Menen, is a very important man in 1892 Ethiopia. Although he is overjoyed at the birth of his newborn son, he cannot spend much time with him. Ras Menen is the governor of Harar and must get back to the famous walled city to deal with its affairs. Furthermore, he is the foreign minister of Ethiopia, and having traveled to different places in Europe, he is very aware of the material and military advances they have made and the looming threats they pose to his country. Ras Menen knows that the majority of Ethiopians have no idea what is coming, and that he has to work that much harder to secure the realm. Lich Tafari would grow up to become the legendary emperor, Haile Selassie I. To understand his journey, we must first understand the Ethiopia that he was inheriting, and what it was like when he was born in 1892. Get your copy of Kwasi Bonsu's book, Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings, and increase your knowledge about the history, politics, and culture of Ethiopia in 1892, and how it connects to the rest of African and world history at the time. Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1 is available for purchase at www.bookmanexpress.pub. Please visit for more information.
I want to ask the eye to step into the Lion Talk time machine. Take us to the moment of your birth. Where were you born? What parish? Give us the origin story of the mighty Keteis.
Okay. You think you have enough time?
Yeah, man. I whole heap of time. We're ready, man. A reasoning, you know. We are bubble strip. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. All right. So I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, but you don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a Kingstonian because sometimes you're born someplace, but you have no choice. Being born in Kingston was a matter of had to based on the fact that I came from St. Mary. But you know, St. Mary doesn't have a hospital to give birth to children. I mean, at the time. So, you know, most people come to town to have their children. So that's how I was born in Kingston. So I always accept St. Mary over Kingston. I'm a country girl. Even though I spent most of my, after I grew up in the country up until about 10 years old. And then I lived in Kingston thereafter. But I still have, rural roots. St. Mary, I'm from St. Mary. I escaped and I said St. Mary I'm coming from. So I said the same thing, see? So I was born given the name Keteis Oyunde Walters.
Okay.
I'm from a family of 8, 6 brothers and 1 sister. My mother, from very early, always roots, was introduced to Rastafari by my father. I really didn't grow up with a father, really. I grew up in a matriarchal home with my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my mother. So that's my mother's grandmother, my mother's mother, and my mother. Father went away when I was like a baby, like 2 years old. He was in America and all of that. I grew up and I began attending the Ethiopian Orthodox Church at 7 years old. I mean, with my mother, of course, And my mother have always said that one thing she would always thank my father for was introducing her to Rastafari. My father was like a Comson Rastaman, back in the days in Trenchtown with Bob Marley, and he and Mortimer Planner was very good friends. That's Kumi. Some people know him as Kumi. And so that early exposure to Rastafari helped me to grow in a cultural family, And after going to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church over a period of time and growing up into the faith, I basically took on the late Archbishop Abuna Yesehaq as my father, not having my biological father. He was a father for me, like a biological father.
Okay.
Never really missed my biological father. You know what I mean? It's ironic that we're having this conversation because it's only 2023 I began to learn so much about my father while he was in the United States, because he passed away like 25 years ago.
Okay.
And luckily, prayerfully, I met him 3 months before he passed. The first time I came to the US, it was like late, it was 1999. And I insisted, I was working at Grace Kennedy, and I said, boy, I really didn't come to New York. I came to a conference in Texas, representing as the president of the Youth Association for the Orthodox Church. And I said, you know what? Something in me was telling me to route my ticket from Kingston to Texas and then Texas to New York, just to see my father, because he was living in New York. And so I did that by the Spirit that guided me to do that. And luckily I did, because instead of going back to Jamaica after I left the conference, like 3 days, I came to New York for the next 3 days and met him for the first time.
Wow.
I was married yet or anything. I was young, early 20s. And I met him, and I never had any resentment somehow, And he passed 3 months later. So
wow.
prayer was answered, because I've always prayed that I would want to meet my father before he died.
Wow.
And Jah answered that prayer for me. So I give thanks for that. Yeah, so basically, I grew up in Ethiopian Orthodox community of Garden Town Road called Dejazmatch. Dejazmatch means Mount of Olives in Amharic,
Okay.
And that community was blessed by His Grace Abuna Yesehaq. And I ended up in that community because of the situation of my mother, growing with her, and she was living in the country with my grandmother, my great grandmother. And then, for work purposes, she came back to Kingston when I was 10. And she moved like from Oxford Street to King Street to Maxfield Avenue, then to Papi in Dejazmatch, which is off Garden Town Road, where I spent like from 13 years old until I was an adult there. So that was a grounding moment for me, growing up in that community, Rastafari, Orthodox family, and like a countryside type of vibration. Because Dejazmatch is really between Papine and Garden Town.
Yes.
You cross a river and go up a mountain. So it was a really hill-trod, like a real Rastafari lifestyle within the community.
What was the first memory you have of Abuna Yesehaq?
Very good question you asked. I remember as a child, when I saw him, I didn't know him, but I just felt like this was a holy man. He just seemed like he had a presence, like an aura, that made me feel like this was not just a regular man, he was a holy man. And I began to cry when I saw him, because I felt his presence. I can't explain it, but when you see something and it's almost like you never experienced it before, it brings a feeling within you. That's the first memory I have of it.
How old were you at that time?
Boy, tell you the truth, I could be 11, I could be, I don't remember, but I can't remember, but it could be even maybe 8 or 9. I don't remember. I was a little girl.
Okay.
The first time I met him, I was a little girl.
And what were some of the reasonings that you would have with him as a little girl that you remember?
Well, he was my confidant. I was always going to him and talking to him about any concern, any struggles. And he was always there, you know. And I've made several of these council sessions with him. I even came to abroad to the US and traveled with him, like from New York to Washington D.C., where he used to go to church sometimes because he used to live in Jersey City. So I can't pinpoint one particular event where I can say, okay, let me try and remember. Well, let me remember. Not as a child though. I remember before I had my daughter, before I had
Yes.
my daughter, I always go to him like after I got married and say, you know, I want a daughter, and it never happened because I didn't have to do it until like 5 years after marriage.
Yes.
So I was kind of worried about infertility and those things. So I always go to him and and talk to him, and he said that don't worry, don't rush, just be patient, you will have it. So I remember when this daughter was born in 2006 and he died 2005, and I remember clearly. I went to visit him at the Beth Israel in New Jersey hospital, and I saw him there. He wasn't speaking. What you call that again when you're in a coma?
Yes. Yes.
And I was thinking myself because I believed in what he told me that you will have. I believe it when he told me, you know. So when I was by his bed and I watched him not talking, and they're presuming that he was going to die, I think he was in the hospice. I said to myself that, my goodness, I still was believing. I said to myself, boy, it's like Abba is going to die and he's not going to see me have a child, you know, because he was always praying for me, hoping, and, telling me, assuring me. And believe you me, he died like December 29, and I came back to Jamaica January 2, like, because I had to come, And right after I came back, that's when I got the daughter. So I always say, I know it was his blessing.
Give thanks.
Give
Give thanks. Wow.
That is one memory I can't forget. But there are many good memories with him growing up as a child. I trusted him with everything. I remember before I had a boyfriend, I went to him and I talked to him, and like I said, I didn't want to have no boyfriend. I want to be a nun. And he said, no, you have to have a husband. You have to have. So from he told me that, now I started thinking like that. So, growing up, a lot of young girls, not just in Jamaica, grow up and they have traumas in their early life, like they see abuse, They might have abused themselves, and they might go up and take a stand to say, okay, I watched women getting beat up by men as a child. Like at 14, I saw this man beating up his baby mother, kicking her, and she was pregnant, and it was like it traumatized me, So at one point in my teenage years, I was thinking that, I'm afraid, of that relationship thing. So I used to express these things to him, and he always, encouraged me.
Well, Haile Selassie the first of the Almighty. And this is the Dejazmatch Kwasi. And the mission, that's the restoration of the black family. Yeah. Who ja bless me, say no one curse. Black woman, it's time to merge. Black redemption, we're on the verge. Well, I don't care what you heard. Haile Selassie first, him no second or third. Cause even when their lines are blurred, the eyes stand straight, no bend, no curve. And him give you the love you deserve. Him don't come fi dominate, him come fi serve. Showed us the way home, I live his words. But I can't do it alone, so black woman, let's merge. Hightal, sip and herbs, we merge. Massage, we calm her nerves, we merge. Together all demon purge, we merge. Another family emerge, we merge. We spoke and no speech was slurred, we merge. We agreed that Babylon's absurd, we merge. We had pain, now we feel cured, we merge. Hail the king, now she conquered. Well, I don't care what you heard. Haile Selassie first, him no second or third. Cause even when their lines are blurred, the eyes stand straight, no bend, no curve. and him give you the love you deserve. Him don't come fi dominate, him come fi serve. Showed us the way home, I live his words, but I can't do it alone, so black woman, let's merge. We met, something was stirred, we merge. Can't forget things that occurred, we merge. Take plane and start fly like bird, we merge. Friends and family observe, we merge. Them a spend while we conserve, we merge. From our goals we were not deterred, we merge. Till our energy transferred, we merge. Now our memories converge.